And we are on to our next session. And this is another fireside chat between Mr. Partha Sengupta and Mr. Sandeep CV. I will request them to come onto the dais, but just give us a minute to do the setup and we are good to go. For this fireside chat, may I request Mr. Sandeep CV, Transformation Architect, Zscaler, to kindly come onto the dais and take his seat. And a round of applause for him, please, ladies and gentlemen. There's applause only from this side. I think the rest of the people will have to, so please take your seat. And I will request Mr. Partha Sengupta, who's the head of IT, Shared Services, ITC Limited, to kindly come onto the stage and take his seat. They're going to have a wonderful chat, so I'm sure all of you are going to have a great time listening to them. And I'll hand over the session to both of you as you carry it forward. Sir.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, Partha sir.
Good afternoon.
All right, okay. This session, as the team just introduced, we are trying to make it as a fireside chat session. This will be for 10 minutes and followed with that. So overall session would be around 20-25 minutes is what we expect. But we want to spend initially 10 minutes with Partha sir, and thank you, Partha sir, for giving us an opportunity. As you all know, Partha doesn't need any specific introduction. He's a thought leader, he's a veteran in the industry, and we would like to hear from specific key inputs in terms of how, from a market perspective, what is happening today. So first of all, again, welcome, sir. Welcome for that.
Thank you.
So I have three questions in mind. I know you're looking more from a business perspective, and technical or technology by default comes in and is handy with that. But from a business point of view, I have three thought processes, and definitely would like to pick your brains and share with the larger audience as well. The first part, as we all know, so we understand that from a transformation is nothing new, right? This has been going on for the last 10 years, 12 plus years. And I think most of the important thing, one of the important thing what we understand and what we hear from our customers as well is today if you look at most of those applications what we have, right? Let's say an employee accesses or a third party accesses or your selective business partners accesses. This could be at your organization or could be any company for that matter. The most challenging part what we have understand today is one, we have to make these applications visible to the market, which means visible to the external world, which is seamless access. But from your thought, even though that's an easy statement to make, but from an IT perspective, what do you think the business challenges may come in, and what is the best way to prevent that? What could be your thought to the larger team?
Great question. Like, just wanted to, the few years back, industry coined a term called zero trust. This term was coined by Gartner. So, that post-COVID, we got into a situation, we got into a mode which is a hybrid mode across the industry and all. We were trying to go, a lot of companies was embracing VPN quite faster, and then we saw the, the inclusion of VDI has become a mandate for the organization because how to work from outside. Then the era of digitalization has started. The data everywhere, application everywhere has started. What you got stuck is that there are multiple blend of infrastructure which is going to come into a place. There'll be people who will come up with a compliant desktop, that everything which is across the organization, which is your antivirus, patches, your laptop, your ready join, fantastic thing to have. It is a nice thing to have as a part of the strategy. There'll be a machine which will come up with it's your company's machine, may not have that 100% compliance. There will be also a situation which is going to come is that the machine is not your, that compliance is not your, you do not know the compliance status, but you have to give them access to this application. True. These are the various pockets which has come in. Then you need a framework that you need an application, you need a gateway where you should be able to give a platform where what kind of a service will be available to them based on his risk profile, based on his current state of the asset. What kind of an access I can give? That has become a mandate. So slowly, I could see that industry is transforming to a situation that embracing zero trust in the overall framework and giving an infrastructure which should be available for everybody and can be used by everybody. That is something which is the shape which we are seeing and all with the zero trust framework.
All right, all right. Thank you for the response. I think one of the key inputs from your messages, I think you touched on a very interesting topic on zero trust. I think that's something which every company is embracing today. It's more a framework or a strategy, correct? And that's something which most of the companies are moving forward to. So thanks on that. I just want to add on one more question on the similar lines. Today, if you look at from an expansion perspective, right? If you look at any companies for that matter, everybody is acquiring another company. This could be a startup, maybe acquiring another startup, maybe a large brand acquiring another company. One of the challenges from a business point of view, I'm sure you would have seen in your world as well, is how do we integrate an M&A? For example, if it's a merger and acquisition, what you have done recently, to get that IT part of your framework. At the same time, let's say as an organization, I've adopted Zero Trust as a framework today or a strategy, but I want to ensure that my M&A entity or my interested entity or acquiring entity is Zero Trust from day one. What would be your thoughts on that? How to make it much more easier?
See, what are the three components when you get into merger, acquisition, splitting, etc., etc.? What are the things which are different in two different organizations? There'll be conflict of, if you go, let's talk about technology, the IP address of both the machines are maybe common. The AD is different. The product for security is different. The trust boundaries are different. Now, the answer lies in my first answer, like, that you, today, if you have got that scenario, if you have got some critical application, critical mass, for an M&A to start, that your enterprise resource planning application. Based on the profile, you give them access to enterprise resource planning application at day one. Now there are a lot of other applications which requires a composite trust boundary. It will be closer to my trust, that I will have more security control getting embraced as a part of my the target organization. I will put in control. As the control increase, I will increase, but that can go on for 2 years. But at day one, when M&A is there, then immediately with the Zero Trust framework, I'll bring in that and include that and give him some key access to key resources. And once the time progresses, I'll keep on stitching those components together so that M&A can complete after 1 year or 1.5 years of complex integration and all. But at day one, I've given access to the key.
Absolutely, absolutely. Fantastic response. Again, key takeaway from what Sir just mentioned about integration. Yes, it's a larger story. It takes time, but however, you can still ensure that you have access to the embedded entity, access to your critical applications, business applications from day one, adopting a zero trust kind of a model. There are technology ways of doing that. We will not get into technical details of it, but yes, that is pretty much possible. The last thing which I have, sir, I know you have a busy schedule. The last thing which I have is what I hear from, again, enterprises for that matter. So today, if you look at most of the environments have a hub and spoke kind of a model, where I have a very large branch offices connecting back to my data centers. Could be data center maybe moved to the cloud world today. But however, there is a lot of crisscross connectivity happening between locations, connecting back to the hub locations, maybe through an MPLS or anything. One thing, interesting thing, because the first statement what we just spoke about, since the apps are everything on the cloud or maybe a SaaSified for that matter today, there may not be need for anything to be connected back to a hub location, which means branches, they want to make it much more intelligent, much more lean. So we used to like to call it as like you work in a at home types, right? If you're sitting inside the branch, it's like at home kind of an environment. So does it make sense that if organizations move towards a lean branch or a direct internet exit kind of a branch where I don't have a need to connect back to my hub locations, cutting off the MPLS costs or anything for that matter, do you think zero trust applies for a lean branch or an intelligent branch as well?
Let me tell you, all of us inside this room, and when people and the companies select for a place in multiple locations across the country, they will look for water, they will look for electricity and data, whether the data is there and all. It is the last element, which is, I think now it's becoming important to check for data also. Previously, people will never used to look at the data is available. But with the proliferation of the internet spreading across the country and all the way it is there, at least internet is available everywhere. So internet has to be the medium of connectivity for any and every organization. You cannot create that this is my trust boundary of an organization. My trust boundary is where I have got my base MPLS network, where I have got my base infrastructure which is available in the country. I will only go there and I'll use that as an infrastructure. You cannot tell that to the business. Hence, internet is a new medium. So your network, which was a physical boundary, physical trusted boundary, needs to become a software boundary, and has to be controlled by a software, as in gateway, where you will be able to do access control based on the answer which I've given is the first one, because data everywhere, network everywhere, infrastructure everywhere. How do you access each and every component, and how do you come back? You have to have a private access to your infrastructure, because since data is everywhere, you also need a private access from a very trusted devices and all, and should be able to come back to your factories, come back to your data centers, come back to your production infrastructure and all, and come back to your R&D setup. Those kind of a setup is important. You need to create a backbone, your Zero Trust internet access platform, your Zero Trust private access platform, integrated with a complete concept of Zero Trust and service-based access as becoming a mantra for today. MPLS is no more can sustain your overall organizational aspiration of growth, overall organization, digital aspiration as a whole. So hence it becomes a mantra. And I think that's what is an answer from my side. And I would like to more, Sandeep, would like to hear from you, like as in how your company is doing that.
Sure, sure. Thank you, Partha, for those insights. And again, a loud round of applause for Partha, sir.
We're just taking a minute to do the setup, and then we'll have the keynote speech by Mr. Sandeep. So the stage is yours.
Can we have the slides? All right. So, should be called KOLKATA. I hope I pronounced it correct. Right, I'm from Bangalore. So again, I'd like to introduce myself. I'm Sandeep CV. I'm part of the transformation architect team based in Bangalore. So been with Zscaler for 1 year now, but however in the cybersecurity industry, it's not new. Been there for the last 18 plus years right now. All right, so today, I think thanks Partha for those insights. And today I'll take another 10-15 minutes to give you a quick overview in terms of what we are from a company point of view, from a platform perspective. As at the same time, what are the few key use cases what we have been serving customers or helping customers. So I'd like to set that context and then we move on. All right, let me just build this slide for you in the interest of time. So that's a quick overview from a company point of view. Again, I think our theme of the event is more about disruption as well, or sustainable disruption. But I think from a company perspective, I think what we've been privileged or what we've been proud is the company has been in the disruption space, especially from a cybersecurity point of view. Sir just spoke about Zero Trust as a model, and that's something which we have been adopted for the last, I would say, 15 plus years. And that is a true market disruption, what we can call it as. And today, the trend is still going on. There is no never ending to that kind of a model. That trend is still going on. But from a company point of view, what we focus is three major pillars, what you're seeing on the screen. So in terms of how do we secure, how do we simplify, and how do we transform a company? Even though that's a very bold statement, there are multiple moving parts to that. We will not get into technicalities of those things. Maybe I can do it in the next breakout sessions. But today, from our focus point of view, these are the three pillars what we're looking at. And it's very important that if you look at from a customers, right? So today, let's say what we have around 8,500 plus customers across the globe. And it's a key testament that if you look on the right-hand side, you have an NPS scoring. The NPS scoring is basically in terms of what is the value that we have been providing for those customers and what is the value of the support what they have been getting from us so far in the last 10, 15 years. So that value, what you see around 70 plus is a key testament in terms of how our customers have been liking the platforms or have been using the platforms. And I'll not get into the spaces, but if you look at any verticals for that matter, this could be a manufacturing industry, this could be an FMCG, this could be a banking statements or banking environments, or it could be an IT/ITES environments for that matter. I think we are proud that we were able to help and solve many use cases for them. Moving forward from a mission or a vision perspective, right? I think we spoke about this slightly in detail. I'm building the slides in the interest of time. But what you see on the left-hand side is a classic model what we have seen so far. It is still there. That is why we are calling it as a hybrid environments. But there are business entities or business requirements which would need an environment or a branch or a sales office to connect back to your data centers. There is still a need that has been still going on. I'm sure many of you will have an environment like this. But majority of the customers have moved towards a SaaSified application or maybe a cloud-based applications today, which means on-prem kind of an environment or a physical data center kind of an infrastructure where I'm hosting applications, that trend is slowly dying out. It's still there. I'm not saying it's zero, but slowly people are moving to a different world. which means the security what we used to have maybe 5 years back or 10 years back, that trend may not be exactly the same what is the need of the art right now, need of the state right now. Because nothing is there back at your data centers. Why do we need to have a lot of security stacks back in your data centers? That's one of the points what we discuss also. Can we leverage internet as a medium? So that any destinations what you want to access, this could be the internet, this could be your Office 365, it could be a LinkedIn, or could be your private applications which is hosted on your CSPs, can have a seamless access. At the same time, there is also security taken care. That's what we did in the last 10, 15 years. If you see on the right-hand side, the Zero Trust Exchange, you can call it as a switchboard, you can call it as an exchange point, where any connectivity, this could be from a user point of view, this could be a contractor perspective, a supplier point of view, this could be a workload on your cloud, anything for that matter, traversing to a specific destination, what you see on the top side, passes through a common exchange point. And that's the framework what you build for customers. It has been working beautifully so far. And again, as I said, thanks to the innovations what we have in the last few years. And when we spoke about Zero Trust again, right, again, let me just build that so that it's easy for you to understand. So we spoke about Zero Trust as a framework. Again, it's not a product, it's not a technology. It's more about how do we simplify the company, especially at the same time, security is also taken care of. Simplification is easy, consolidation is one angle what we can look at, but at the same time, it has to be secure in nature as well. And that's where Zero Trust as a concept comes into play. For a simple meaning or a simple, easier understanding, I'm sure all of you would have heard about this umpteen number of times. We want to get an answer for each and everything. For example, what are you accessing? Who are you? Where are you connecting from? Where do you want to access? What time, what do you want? What do you want to access? Why do you want to access? What is the action what you want to do? Which means if I have answers to many areas, why, who, why, what, when. So if I have an answer to many areas, what is happening within an organization world, the concept of a Zero Trust is much more easier from an application perspective. And we do it in 2 days, two different ways, what we look at. While I'll discuss a bit more in detail, but what you see on the left-hand side on top, let me see if I can highlight. What we see on the left-hand side by top is managed by others, which is basically your external entities, your internet applications, SaaS-based applications. How do we ensure that your workforces can seamlessly access those destinations via the exchange point, what I just spoke about? The second part could be a private application or your business internal application, which is accessed by only your employees, or could be a, I would say, allowed third party or a contractor. How do we ensure a safer access to those infrastructure as well? At the same time, Zero Trust as a concept or a framework is still laid as a key foundation. I'll not get the technicalities, we can discuss that separately. Again, as I said, from our point of view, this is more from a product's point of view, but I'll not touch the product side. But what the key takeaway from this slide, what you have is, as I said, 2 different types of accesses, especially from a workforce point of view, you can look at 2 different types of accesses. This could be an internet or SaaS application, this could be a private applications. While that is good, what is the most important part is from an experience point of view. While I can send everything through a common exchange point, landing on a specific destination, what is more important is how does the experience look like? Tomorrow somebody says sitting in maybe a tier 1 city or a tier 2 city or a tier 3 city that I want to access my ERP application which is there on-prem, or I want to access my ERP application which is there on the cloud, but my experience is bad. I'm not able to access it correctly. The applications are failing. So tomorrow from an IT point of view or a NetOps team point of view, it becomes extremely tricky for them to understand where the issue lies. Is it at the endpoint machine level? Is it at the network level? Is it the company network level? Or is it the cloud level? We don't know where the problem lies. So experience monitoring is very critical, and that's why we also need an end-to-end kind of an experience monitoring. So that it becomes easy from a network operations team to go back and tell you, hey, the problem lies here, we can solve it then and there. So that's also been taken care from a platform perspective. So today, if you look at, we have 4 different areas to cover, right? Again, as you see here, what you see on the downside. One is from a workforce. I think we spoke about that in detail now. We are also trying to touch upon other 3 areas, which is the cloud side, the IoT or OT side, and the B2B side. This is again important because from a cloud perspective, you have your apps on the cloud, but how do you also ensure that there is a Zero Trust which is taken on the cloud point of view as well? Which means your cloud workloads are accessing an internet. Whether you want to invest on security stacks on the cloud or build a similar kind of a framework, what you've done for your physical data center on the cloud may not be needed. Use cases may be different, but may not be needed to invest on so much of security stacks from a cloud point of view as well. That is something which we are simplifying today. IoT, OT, a huge area for many enterprises. Again, still thinking of how do we secure an IoT framework today, right? Because it's not built for a security first kind of a model. IoTs are never built for a secure by design kind of a model, unfortunately. And that's why most of the companies are looking at today saying that how do we ensure I put in security controls for my IoT segments, at the same time have a clear-cut demarcation that an IoT device should not be able to talking to another IoT device or vice versa. So how do we bring in that kind of a segmentation at the network level on an IoT or an OT world? And the last part is on the B2B or the third-party access. This is again inevitable. Any organizations would need your contractors to be accessed, maybe your developers to be accessed, or whoever is managing your infrastructures to be accessed, maybe specific accesses to be provided, but that also has to be taken care, keeping in mind the data exfiltration challenges, what we have seen recently. All right. So from a platform, again, 4 different areas. I'll not get into technicalities again in the interest of time. 4 different areas is what we are covering. One is on the threat protection side, which is again more detailing in terms of the threat landscape, what we see across the globe, and how a common exchange point like this can cover those threat landscapes. Data exfiltration, that is again a key point. One of the persons asked that earlier as well. How do we ensure that the data protection is taken care at all levels? This could be at the network level, this could be the endpoint level, this could be at the email level, anything for that matter. How do we ensure that there is no data exfiltration is happening from your organizations, unknowingly or unknowingly? On the networking side is more about how do we make branches much more lean? How do we make branches much more intelligent? At the same time, having a zero trust kind of a model. I think Partha sir explained that nicely. It's all about how do we don't have to connect back to hub location, as I said earlier. It becomes easier for a branch to use internet as a medium, connect your applications, work like a cafe. You're sitting inside a branch, but still you're working like a cafe, right? Your users are always secured. And the last part is on the risk management, very large portfolio to cover. But we also want to give back to customers, how does your risk posture looks like? You are an XYZ company, what is your risk posture looking like today? What are the areas of gaps what we see? How do we map it to industry standards, for example, a MITRE framework, or let's say a NIST framework, anything for that matter? How do we connect back to your risk framework or risk factors of the company? How do we ensure we have a high level visibility to that? And these are the 4 areas what we have been covering till date. And this is key, right? I'll not get into the numbers, it's more a global kind of a study, but from an ROI is very important because end of the day, you will consolidate a lot of things, especially when you're taking zero trust as a model. Because intent is to simplify and secure, correct, as I said. So you may not need too many touch points or too many products within the company. This could be a firewalls for that matter. This could be an IPS or anything. Let's not get into the technical side of things, but it becomes much more easier when you consolidate a lot of factors. And that's why you get a better ROI when you start simplifying at the same time securing that. And the last slide, this is what we have been built so far. As I said, I'll not get into the points one by one, but it needs an architecture. When you're building an exchange point where any traffic traverses through that model, it also has to be reliable. It has to be mature. It has to be scalable. And that's what we have been built. The architecture is built in such a way that in India itself, we have around 7 data centers today. And globally, we have around 160 plus data centers. And that platform is serving 8,500 plus customers across the globe. Happy to discuss much more in detail. And thank you so much once again for the time.
Thank you very much, sir. We request you to remain on stage, and I will request Mr. Partha Sengupta to kindly come forward and join Mr. Sandeep CV on stage, please. And I will request Mr. Umin Thomas, National Head Advertisement Sales of AVP Private Limited, to kindly come forward to present mementos to both our speakers here. Thank you very much, Mr. Sandeep CV. He is the Transformation Architect, Zscaler. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Partha Sengupta, Head of IT, Shared Services ITC Limited. Thank you, sir, for being here with us and sharing your stories with us. Thank you, dear leaders. We request you to take your seats in the auditorium.